Hello, everyone. I'm Randy Arrington, and welcome to the 13th episode of Page Valley Living. We're here today inside the West Luray Recreation Center, also known as the Rec, to talk about nonprofit agencies here in the Page Valley and how a new position recently created is trying to coordinate the efforts of these agencies to prevent redundancy, create better efficiency for the providers, and a better service for those that these groups serve. We'll be talking soon with Taylor Alger, who has filled this new role through the support of the Page Alliance for Community Action, also known as PACA, and other partners throughout the area. We'll take a look at how this new position that's been talked about for a long time and see how it's working out now in the first few months, the struggles and the successes in just a moment. But first, we would like to thank our sponsor, Luray Caverns, where you can hear music of symphonic quality from ancient stone formations on the great stalactite organ, the largest musical instrument in the world. Only at Luray Caverns. Visit them online at luraycaverns.com to plan your trip today. We'll be right back in just a moment to talk to Taylor Alger about her new work to coordinate these nonprofit efforts and to better help those in need in the Page Valley. But first, let's take a look at this week's headlines. And now looking back at the week that was in the Page Valley. For a second consecutive year, the Page County Animal Shelter has earned a no-kill designation for achieving a save rate greater than 90%. Overall, the local shelter saved the lives of 94.4% of the 501 cats and dogs that came through the facility in 2023. Page County Public School officials announced on Monday that Luray Middle School principal Heather Pearsons would not be returning this school year. Pearsons was put on administrative leave in mid-December pending an investigation by school officials. Clint Runyon, the school division's director of secondary instruction, will serve as the lead administrator and point of contact for Luray Middle School until a new principal is hired. Early voting in Virginia's dual presidential primary began January 19th and continues through Saturday, March the 2nd. The actual primary day is slated for Super Tuesday on March the 5th. Early voting can be done on the ground floor of the Page County Government Center on South Court Street in Luray. And now in the world of sports, the Luray High School boys and the Page County High School girls basketball teams advanced to Wednesday's semifinal round of the Bull Run District Tournament. The Page girls will host number 3 Central, while the Luray boys will travel to number 2 Clark County. The winners advance to the Bull Run District Tournament Championship on Friday. The Region 2B tournament is slated for next week. 2 members of the Page County High School wrestling team have qualified for the state tournament in Salem this weekend. Sophomore Michael Shiflett and junior Jordan Hedrick both placed third in their respective weight classes at the Region 2B wrestling tournament in Stanton on Saturday. Heading now into the Salem Civic Center for states on February 16th and 17th, Shiflett is 23-10 on the season, while Hedrick is 23-12. And one final sports note, congratulations to the state qualifiers from the Region 2B indoor track meet that was held at Woodbury Forest on Saturday. Luray junior Davy Johnson was the region champion in the 1,000 meters and as a member of the 4x400 meter relay team. Johnson was also the region runner-up in the 1,600 meters. Draven Stevens was the region runner-up in the 300-meter dash, as was Anna Whitmer in the 500 meters. Maya Jenkins qualified in the 3,200 meters after finishing third, as did the boys 4x200-meter relay team. So the Bulldogs will be well represented at the Class 2 State Indoor Track Championships that will be held February 28th and 29th at Liberty University in Lynchburg. And finally, folks, looking at the weekend ahead, the Page Alliance for Community Action, or PACA as it's known, will hold its annual Polar Plunge this Saturday, February 17th at Luray's Lake Arrowhead. Activities begin on the beach at 11 a.m. with the plunge scheduled for 1 p.m. One more showing of the stage performance Love Letters is scheduled at the Rebecca J. Graves Regional Center for the Performing Arts on Saturday, February 17th. The 6:30 p.m. dinner theater costs $60 per person. And that's a look at the headlines for the past week in the Page Valley. Welcome back, everybody, to Page Valley Living. We're here today with Taylor Alger, as we said earlier, here in the West Luray Recreation Center. Taylor, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Now, we're going to talk about this new position that you have kind of helped create and start in. But let's start before we get into the details. When did you start this position?
I would say I officially started August, September-ish. A lot of the groundwork was making the connections to see how we could get it started, but I think it officially probably started August, September.
Okay, and then let's kind of break down what this position is, because I know it's been talked about in various forms for many years. We've got so many different resources and services out there for folks in need, for various needs. How do you kind of keep the overlap or the redundancy there? How do you create more efficiency? Could there be someone that could coordinate all that? So tell me a little bit about how this came about, and in very general terms, what it is you do.
Yeah, so I kind of had the vision for it. I moved back to Page County and started connecting to different networks and different organizations, and found that many people were doing the same thing, but no one knew what the other organizations were doing. So I had the seed planted. And then through the Page County Public School Community Forum, Bo Cook came back and presented that he was seeing that there was a need for this position. So I connected with him and then connected with other people, and we just started seeing, okay, how can we actually make this work? So that was, the seed was planted, but that was kind of the water to water the seed.
And you've been involved in so much of that. Not only do you sit on the District 1 school board seat for Page County Public Schools, you also, I believe, were part of getting those community forums going, which is now where the school system officials are talking with different people in the community about a wide range of things. And then there's also the community gardens that you've helped get started through PACA. I think we now have one in each town in the county, in Shenandoah, Stanley, and Luray. And all of that is so wonderful. So tell me a little bit more specifically. Now, those are things you've kind of done in the past. What specifically have you been doing the last 6 months that's different?
So what I've mostly been doing, when we first came up with the idea of this position, it was more working directly with the families, which I do still do that. But the thing is, when someone is in crisis and they're needing resources now, when you're trying to connect them to all those resources, especially if the resources aren't there, it is quick burnout. It is a lot to try to run that cycle and the system for people. So what I'm doing now is meeting with the organizations each week, various organizations, having meetings with multiple organizations together, and really seeing what does the day-to-day look like, what are people working towards, what are people working on, and then making those connections among the organizations and building communication when I see that there's overlap or a way for two organizations to connect.
Well, let's take that just one step further in terms of detail. So we're here at the rec center. Part of what you do is you coordinate some of the after-school stuff that's done here. Give me 2 or 3 or 4 bullet points of examples like this, and what you do here and what you do at other places.
Yeah, so when I'm here, I do administration for the rec center, so I know what grants are out there, what funding's coming in, what the needs are for resources for the rec center. And I also do one-on-ones with the kids. So I'm connecting with the kids, connecting with their families, seeing what the family need is. I go to Page 1 just about every week, and I connect with Justin, the director there, and Kim, the administrator, and even clients that are coming in to see what their needs are and see what they're working on. I go to Arise, and I meet with Joe and sit down with him, and we're really just seeing what are the projects, what are the programs, and then again, how can we tie in what Page 1 is doing and what Arise is doing, or what's happening here at the rec center, and really just, the pieces of the puzzle are there, and I'm just seeing what those pieces look like and how they're shaped, and then how they can fit together to create the whole picture.
Aren't you doing something through the courts and the jail?
Yeah, so I'm also working with the Reentry Program. So I go there once, well now it's multiple times a week, but I started just going there once a week and meeting with them and their case manager to see what organizations they were working with and seeing what the need was. And then through that I've started doing, they needed a counselor. So I've started doing some trauma work with people that are in reentry or still incarcerated. to be able to help support them with resources. And
So you're not just doing one job, you're doing like 6 jobs.
I counted recently and it was like 9.
Well, I went too far off there.
Yeah.
Wow, and you're helping youth. Part of it, I know you said, is part youth coordinator. Part of it is working with adult programs. So let's break down just in general terms. How is this funded?
It's a connection and a partnership through multiple organizations. So PACA is supporting with the community resource piece and some of the work that I'm doing with the youth.
Okay.
The rec center is contributing. The sheriff's department is contributing through the JMAT program. The free clinic is contributing. Make sure I've got it all together, but I think those are the main groups that are contributing.
That is outstanding. And of course, we're talking about, when we say contributing and sponsoring, we're talking about basically your salary. And then I guess, is there a little budget for little expenditures or anything? Little costs that you might have?
Not at this point, because really, I mean, the supplies, the resources, the family assistance, that's being done by other organizations.
Right, okay.
So we're not really reinventing that wheel, but when I know that that's needed, then I'll connect to Page One, or I'll connect to an organization that's doing that. But what I'm also trying to do is saying, what are ways that we can be more efficient with our spending and that we can save? So for example, when we have food assistance programs, we have multiple organizations in the community that are supporting with food assistance in different ways. So then I'm starting meetings to bring all of those organizations to the table to say, what are we spending on food? Where are we getting our food from? Where are we delivering? So again, we can see those overlaps and see how we can create maybe one county-wide program where everyone is then partnered together.
Well, it sounds great, because that's exactly what I've mentioned a couple times before, that different people, different organizations have talked about something like this for a while, that, gosh, wouldn't it be nice to have sort of one point person?
Yes.
So tell me, in the first 6 months, can you point to something where early on you've seen an impact, where you made a difference in someone's life?
Absolutely. So we had a family through PACA that we were working with, and they've lived in a camper for well over a year, and they're doing everything they can. They're trying to connect to different resources. Well, I actually brought them in front of our community forum to tell their story and to share with all of these different organizations what the day-to-day looked like, and what they had tried, and where they had kind of ran up against a wall. And through that, many different organizations, from the Moose, the VFW, 4-H, I mean, tons of people came together and contributed, gave them a full Christmas, tons of money to be able to pay some things off, and then also there was connecting and getting them some housing. So it was a big difference and a big improvement. And even just through going to Page One, they needed support because fuel costs have gone up unbelievably. And so they needed support to be able to support people with those fuel bills. So I knew Community Works is an organization that was looking for ways to help other organizations. So then we did a fundraising campaign where they could connect to bring in some money for those fuel costs.
Well, that is a great story on the positive end. Obviously, probably hadn't been all smooth sailing. Have you experienced some obstacles that maybe you didn't anticipate?
Absolutely. I think there at the beginning, again, when we started working directly with the families, and I almost kind of fell into some case management. So I was working with the family, what are your needs, and then trying to meet those needs for the family. And it was just, I think it was about maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and I quickly almost burnt out. So that was really, really difficult. And I think it's just because everyone is doing so much and they have so much on their plate that it's trying to coordinate when we're trying to bring things together, we have to coordinate everyone's schedules and try to get everybody to the table to have some of these conversations. And then, a big thing I found is with all of these organizations, it's funding, right? You have to be able to write grants, then you have to be able to manage the grants, then you have to bring in donations. So what I'm trying to be able to find are what are ways, if we're bringing in funding, how can we bring in funding for multiple organizations to meet multiple funding streams, so that then, we're partnering and that funding is coming to our community instead of just one organization.
Well, there is no magic bullet to solving all the problems, but this, I believe, is a tremendous start to addressing some of these needs and making things work a little more efficiency when trying to help some of these folks in need. We're going to take a really quick break, And we're going to come back and play a game called the 5 W's.
Oh,
Will you play with us?
I would love to.
All right,
I would
wonderful,
love to.
wonderful. We're going to do that in just a moment. But first, we would like to say once again thank you to our sponsor, Livin Caverns. From well-lighted paved walkways, explore cathedral-sized rooms with ceilings 10 stories high and walk among huge chambers filled with towering stone columns. Come visit Geology's Hall of Fame, only at Livin Caverns. Visit them online at liaisoncaverns.com to plan your trip today. We're back now with Taylor Alger, who is the new coordinator of some nonprofit services here in the Page Valley. And we're going to play the 5 W's. I'm going to shoot you 5 questions here, talking about the who, what, when, where, and why. Are you ready?
I think so.
Who has been the biggest inspiration in your life to do the kind of work that you're doing?
My mom. My mom was an addict. She was a single mother. She did all of these things to try to help my sister and I, but really couldn't help herself. So she lost her life in 2020, and I got into psychology. I got into mental health because of her addiction, but then when she lost her life, that's what brought me back home, and that's what really pushed me to want to do the work here and help my community. So.
What do you personally get from doing this kind of work, which I know has to be physically, emotionally, mentally draining at a lot of times?
A lot of times, but it's also so fulfilling. When I see the family shift because they had that access to the resource, or they got that one thing that they just could not find themselves, or when they can call and they know exactly where to go and they can learn to navigate the system a little bit more fluidly without feeling like, again, they're just running into wall after wall. It's the most fulfilling feeling. And especially when the kids are benefiting from it as well, seeing that the shift in them is very transformative. So.
When did you start doing this type of work?
My whole life. No, so I knew at a young age that I wanted to do psychology, and then I got more into mental health, and then of course learning more about addiction. And I think I really, 2015, 2016 really kind of pushed me into the direction of knowing I want to work with kids, I want to work with families, I want to work with community.
Yeah, and agriculture.
And of course, agriculture, yes. Well, that's part of that is connecting people to food.
Where have you done this type of work before?
I have worked with multiple organizations within Page County. I worked with the school system for a while. I worked with Crossroads Counseling. I worked at the Kids Club at Massanutten for a while. And then I was out west in Colorado for 2 years where I worked with youth. And a lot of the agriculture knowledge that I have and the passion around that really was fueled in that time in Colorado.
Wonderful, wonderful. Last question, then we're going to let you go. It's the why. Sometimes maybe the most important question. Why is it important to help our neighbors in need and not just rely on the old adage that they should just pull themselves up by their own bootstraps?
Absolutely. So going to my agricultural brain, when you look at an ecosystem, it's only as strong as its weakest part. And so if we have people that are struggling in our community, we can't be successful or thrive as a community when people are struggling, and so much so. So another piece too is when people don't have laces for those boots, it's really hard to pull them up. And it feels good. It feels good to help people, and it feels good to know that you did something to give back to your community.
Outstanding answer, and that's a great way to end it. And we want to say thank you to Taylor Alger. Thank you for spending some time with us today. Thank you for what you have done and what you will continue to do in our community. Absolutely. And we also want to say thanks to our sponsor, Livin Caverns, and thanks to Eleanor Arrington for her work behind the camera today. If you liked our show today, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and share it with a friend. And as always, make sure you go down to the Page County Animal Shelter and help our furry friends find a forever home. Until next week, this is Randy Arrington saying, enjoy that Page Valley living.